Hi, you're listening to Dusk to Dawn, reading horror and weird fiction. We're your hosts, Amber and Dan.
Follow us on Instagram at Dusk to Dawn Podcast. Please rate our show wherever you're listening, and let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. We are nearing the end. We are talking about the Starving Saints today, and then we have 3 more books until it is summertime. And you know what we're thinking about for summertime? All those books we want to read.
Yeah.
Amber showed me a pile of, 6 books you have on the dresser? And you're like, I need to read this for summer. But she kind of had a wild, frantic look on her face because she's probably thinking of like the 10 other books she wants to read in addition.
Yeah, I was thinking of possibly reading Don Quixote.
Do it.
Or Lord of the Rings, the trilogy.
Which you have read, right? I assume?
Yeah.
When did you read it?
It's been a few years now. I don't know the last time I read them, but it's been a little while.
Few years. It's probably almost 10 years ago.
Probably.
15.
Yeah, but I don't know. I have all these big delusions of grandeur, basically.
My whole life is a delusion of grandeur. All right, let's get to the book. This one's going to be a fun one because we are talking about a local author, Caitlin Starling. She lives in the neighborhood of us, and she's the nationally best-selling author of The Starving Saints, which we're talking about today, The Death of Jane Lawrence, Last to Leave the Room, The Luminous Dead, and others. Her work showcases her love of genre-hopping horror. Her bibliography spans besieged castles, alien caves, and haunted hospitals. Her short fiction has been published by Grimdark Magazine and Neon Hemlock, and her nonfiction has appeared in Nightmare, Uncanny, and Nightfire. And Nightfire is hosting a cocktail hour at StokerCon.
Nice.
I'll go there and drink and talk to authors, of course. She got her start writing fan fiction in her youth, starting with Sailor Moon fanfic, and she has also worked on narrative design for interactive theater and video games. In fact, The Starving Saints was originally pitched to Choice of Games as an interactive fiction video game.
I could see that.
Yeah, fun little fact for you there. Found that one all on my own.
And also, when you say she's our neighbor, she's not actually our neighbor. She just lives in, we're in Portland, Oregon area.
Oh,
she
yeah.
also lives in Portland area.
Yeah, we don't hang out or anything. She's just in the vicinity.
She's part of our Horror Writers Association chapter. But,
yeah, and she gave a
good
She
talk.
showed up. Yeah, it was cool. Mm-hmm. Tell us about this book.
Okay, so The Starving Saints. The castle of Aymar is under siege, and with only 15 days of provisions left, the inhabitants will soon starve. In an effort to save his people, the king orders his mad woman to create food using her magic, just as she was able to cleanse the putrid water in the cisterns under the keep. When Phocine is unable to conjure food from nothing, it appears that all is lost. Until, standing at the front gates, 4 saints arrive: the Constant Lady, the Warding Saint, the Loving Saint, and the Absolving Saint, bearing a cornucopia of food. But at what cost?
I wonder if cornucopia of food is redundant. Does cornucopia mean a lot of food, or does it just mean a lot of something?
I thought a cornucopia was like the basket that holds the food.
Yeah, the one that looks like a horn, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's
Okay.
how I would.
Yeah, me too. I did it right. Because I'm just wondering if I'm like, basket of food.
It's a horn of plenty.
The Horn of Plenty, a classic RPG.
Typically depicted as a hollow horn-shaped wicker basket overflowing with stuff. So
Cool. I did it right.
yeah.
So we first heard about this book, not at the book talk, because we went to the book talk because you knew about the book. How did you find out about this book?
Well, I've read a couple of her books prior to this one coming out. I had read The Luminous Dead and The Death of Jane Lawrence. I actually read The Luminous Dead twice. I read it just because I wanted to, and then also last year in our HWA book club, we read it because it was part of the Summer Scares program. The Horror Writers Association does a Summer Scares where we read member books, and that was one of them. So that
is that just like a month of the book club, or is that something separate?
It's over summer. So there's three books, June, July, and August, and then I think they have adult and then also young adult and maybe middle grade. I think they do all the different levels. And this year we're reading 2 of the 3 because we had already read Mayfly in our book club group. So we're going to read whatever book wins the Stoker Award.
How many books are up for award anyway?
I don't remember. I think
bunch?
it's 4 or 5. I know Wendy N. Wagner is up for one, and she's a local author. So I have my fingers crossed for her. I think also Buffalo Hunters is up for one.
What is this? Just the best book? Wait, what's the award?
Novel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about it real quick. Oh, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I feel like, didn't that come out like a couple of years ago?
That came out last year. These are 2025
that was only a year ago?
books. Yeah, it came out in February because Janice and I went to the book club.
All right.
Or the book, his book tour. He was
gotcha.
great. He was such a good...
Yeah, you liked that one a lot. I'm sad I missed it.
He had a whole presentation about the history of witchcraft. He didn't even talk about the book. It was so entertaining too.
That's the best way to do it. Chuck Tingle also hardly touched on the book, and it was so much fun.
He's coming here in June or July.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm going to do a quick side quest. So the Bram Stoker Award nominations are Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, King Sorrow by Joe Hill, The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and Girl in the Creek by local author Wendy N. Wagner. Which is cool. She's in our chapter, right? I don't know if I met her yet.
She's the only one of those names that's not like a big, well-known like horror author. I think it's her debut
good for her.
novel, and everyone knows Joe Hill and Stephen Graham Jones and Grady Hendrix and Sylvia Moreno Garcia.
I haven't heard of her. I don't know.
She's written. She wrote Mexican Gothic. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
cool.
A couple other. She wrote Silver Nitrate, which I've read.
Did you like it?
I did. And a number of other books, but those are her horror ones that I've read. Okay, no, I was wrong. This is not her debut, but I haven't read her other stuff. But she's worked on Pathfinder. That's so cool. She's written Pathfinder novels.
Oh yeah. Oh, novels? Not like player guides or whatever?
I think so.
Cool.
It says
that'd be fun, I bet.
A novel by Wendy N. Wagner. That's awesome. Get it, girl?
That was like Brian
Science
Evanson.
Fiction. Oh, that's why. She has one other horror. The Deer Kings. Folk horror with kids on bikes vibe. Oh, our son would love that.
Yeah, Brian Evanson wrote a Dead Space book.
Oh, nice.
Which, reading his short fiction, it would be really hard to imagine what it would be like for him to write licensed, like a licensed piece of work. But who knows? Maybe I'll read it someday. All right, let's get back to the main quest.
Sorry, yeah.
We're excited. StokerCon is coming up in, 2.5 weeks, something like that. And so we'll definitely be talking about that when we get back for the podcast after that. But let's go back to the main quest.
Which will also be Bloomsday. We're going to have a busy episode.
All right, so back to the Starving Saints. Here's the setup. We got the main castle where all of our characters are is under siege by Etrebia. And I'll say right away, we might mispronounce some of these words because those are fantasy words. And we struggle pronouncing regular, normal words sometimes.
There are some really good Instagram
there are
posts about trying to pronounce fantasy names. Just like, oh, and then he went to blah, 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 and blah, 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 and it's like the name is just like, yeah.
Yeah, fantasy, that's definitely a reason that I don't read more of it, I think. Well, also because a lot of those books are just so big, but it's kind of like the first quarter of you reading is 1, 2, et cetera, et cetera. That's not so much the case here. All the names and stuff are pretty easy to pronounce. There is Sir Leo
DeGennardis.
I think it's Leo DeGardis.
Leo DeGardis.
Okay.
See
if
it's
you can
easy
remember
once
that.
you get it.
All right, so we have the castle under siege. I got to say right away at the top here, a lot of what's going on was a little bit confusing to me. I had a difficult time following along with everything that was happening. And part of not so much what was happening, but for example, we have this country or enemy forces of Etrebia sieging Aymar. We never learned a single thing about Etrebia. They're just...
I think they attack once. Don't they just attack like the one time? And it fucks up the wall and some people die. And they're like, well, at least we have less mouths to feed. Because there are, 900 people in this castle meant for
the castle
300 people.
Yeah, it's like full to bursting.
But we never really see these people. I don't know where they are. There's a lot of empty spaces for a place that's crammed with people.
Well, part of it, what happens is like it feels like a lot of the scenes are just a couple of people. It does feel very spacious,
isolated. Yeah.
But then there'll be a line like, and everybody in the room reacted or whatever, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's right. There's like a bunch of people here. But yeah, so we have the castle under siege. We don't learn anything about the enemy forces except that they are conducting the siege and they have siege engines and they're about to bust down the walls and attack.
And the king's in the castle, so you can't just abandon it and move on.
The castle's like up against a cliffside, it sounds like. So they're not retreating. Yeah. They're pushed up where they are. They're like the enemy's pushed up against them. Then Aymar comes up with this crazy idea.
Aymar's a castle.
Oh, the castle's a character.
What a smart castle.
Yeah. So the prioress of the church comes up with the idea to melt down nearly all of the iron in the castle. I mean, from their perspective, they want to melt it all down, but they forget to check the blacksmith. And then fire that melted down iron in their catapults to bust the siege engines of Atrabia so that their walls don't get knocked down, right?
And I think, so Jacin, the prioress, it's her idea, and I think it was implied that she did some kind of magical thing to this iron too, to like,
oh, is that it?
Make it explode or whatever, because she's kind of on that same level as Phocine, that she can sort of work magic, like she works some kind of magic on it, I believe. And that's why they use all the iron.
Okay, because I was like, why don't you just use stone? Why would you melt down all your iron? I mean, if you catapult
I think she,
a huge piece of stone at a siege engine,
that would
wouldn't be
also
strong
make
enough.
sense. And it's interesting too that they're willing to destroy all their weaponry, but then they hesitate to kill and eat the horses. Because then they're like, how can we attack them if we don't have horses? Well, you don't have weapons either, so I don't know.
Yeah, you got bigger problems.
But yeah, anyway.
But essentially, from doing that, they use the perhaps magically enhanced iron in their catapults, bust up all the siege engines, and so they're back at a stalemate, and which is good because they're not worried about being attacked, but there's still no way to get food. They've been sending messengers out, and they're not getting any assistance from their allies. So they're assuming that their messengers are being captured or killed. And they're so desperate that the king goes to Phocine, their madwoman, and is like, make food out of thin air. And it doesn't work that well.
Well, because she did, her job is to do the impossible. She cleaned the water. And she's even like, I'm not really
she
sure
doesn't
how
know
I did
how
that.
she does them. She does magic, but she's like, I don't know how it happened. It just happened.
And so that made me think it's more like alchemy than magic, because alchemy, you're just kind of mixing stuff. And she like takes old rotting flesh and like pokes grass seeds into it, thinking that like the seeds would encourage the growth of the meat, those kinds of things. So that made me feel like it was very alchemical.
Yeah, that's right.
Alchemic as opposed to magic.
It does feel that way. There's not like a magic wand.
Later it becomes much clearer that it is magic.
And then our other two main characters, so we have Phocine the madwoman. We have Servoin, the courageous knight, the king's lapdog. And she is assigned to watch Phocine and make sure that she's making food out of nothing. And then our third major character, we have Trela, the rat catcher. She's formerly of a royal family, but her dad's head got cut off by Servoin. So she wants revenge against Servoin, but she also wants to get it on with Starling.
It's a little bit like Arya, I think, in A Song of Ice and Fire. Because she, her family gets killed, and then she wants to take revenge, sort of.
Does she also, who does she want revenge against? It's been a while since I've...
Everyone. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really remember either.
Does she also want whoever killed her family?
She's young. No.
Okay.
She's young and strong and sneaky. And I've read too, and a friend of mine said, I've heard it a couple times, Servoin reminds them of Brianna, the big warrior chick. She's in Star Wars too, the actress. I
Yeah.
didn't really get that vibe. She's supposed to be big and burly and wears armor, but she's not wearing her armor. She's mopey. I don't know. I didn't get the hard vibe that I think.
Yeah, Sir Voyn's a little interesting because we are told that she is this fierce warrior and she's like, get me back on the battlefield. I just need to be in combat. But she doesn't go out there because she would immediately die.
She doesn't have any armor. They threw it. They catapulted it at the...
Yeah. And she also cut off Trela's dad's head at the command of the king after the Battle of Cardamon. I think I said that right.
Yeah. Or you're talking about the herb, but that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Something like that.
Spice, yeah.
Which happened before the events of the book. So we know that she was on a battlefield, and we know that they ended up having to eat each other. So cannibalism has already occurred. Not that far in the past, too, right?
Yeah, they remember the taste of flesh.
But there's no Voyn combat in the book. And maybe at the very end, there's a little bit of fighting.
Yeah, there is at the end, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I was a little confused at the end.
But she can't see who she's fighting.
Oh, is this when Trela's invisible?
No, it's not Trela. She's fighting the Constant Lady, but the Constant Lady has bewitched her, so she can't see her. And so...
okay.
Phocine's like, left, right, she's playing a video game, telling Voyn what to do.
Interesting. I don't remember that at all. So one of the things, this is very much on me as well, but what's interesting about the way the book is written is it feels like for every action a character takes, there is then reflection by that character on the action or just like thinking of something in the past. So it feels very stuttery, like do an action, think about it, do an action, think about it, which that pacing made it really hard for me to follow a through line of exactly what was happening because I felt like my brain was constantly switching between in the moment, in the past, in the moment, in the past. So I did read the book, but if I often say I don't remember that part, that's why, because it was just kind of hard for me to follow it.
I think also part of the problem, and I started highlighting this as I went, is there's a lot of, oh, well, if I could stop and think about this, then I might figure out what's going on in this moment. But I don't have time for that. There's a lot of, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to think, even though there's a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
So a lot of points are, oh, we'll save that for later. We'll explain it later. So it's also meant trying to keep you in the dark. The problem with that, though, is that it happens so frequently that there's just a lot of darkness, and it's like, wait, what is even your motive in this action that you're doing? And it gets muddled.
Yeah, I think too, I mentioned this too while we were reading it, that it feels like everything is given a lot of weight, like everything is important and you're supposed to be on the edge of your seat for everything that happens. So because of that was another reason I had trouble following the plot sometimes, because it didn't feel like
the pacing ever slowed down.
Yeah, it didn't feel like anything was given more importance than anything else. It just felt like everything was written in a way to be tense, which makes sense, but it wasn't like an escalating tension. It was just a smooth, even tension in the prose, throughout the whole thing. It didn't give the signal to the reader of like, this is a moment of just chilling, action's cooling down, and then it's heating up, that kind of stuff. Everything was kind of given the same weight of dramatic importance, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We should say, I guess this book was a little bit of a struggle for us. It almost feels like part of what's going on in this book, and you'll pick up on this as we talk about it more, is we both came in with expectations that were definitely not met. And that's totally fine because we're bringing those expectations ourselves. But it's marketed as what, medieval horror?
It's not medieval.
It does not feel medieval.
There's absolutely nothing about medievalism in this book. There's a castle, there's a king, and there's knights, but that's fantasy. As someone who reads a lot of medieval history and medieval historical fiction, I was very disappointed with the lack of medievalness in this book. So,
Yeah, we get descriptions of Phocine's tower where she has her jars and creatures and stuff, and then the cistern, and then the dining hall occasionally, and a couple of other things. But
there's the chapel with all the bees and stuff.
And the king kind of just walks around. I don't really know what he's doing.
The king's a minor character. The king is basically just, I think, there to make it so that they have to be there, right?
Yeah, right. But we never get anything about him. I mean, we get that Sir Voin is like, I want to serve the king, which makes sense. You serve the king because they're the king. But
that's fantasy. There's no realism. There's no historical fiction to this. So you're not like set in Europe. You're not using real places. There's no history in there.
Would you consider it medieval if it was made up fantasy places, but like there were a lot of medieval like castle details?
No, I don't consider Song of Ice and Fire medieval.
Okay, got it.
That's not. It's fantasy.
Yeah. Okay.
Medieval is medieval. It's a time period. It's like saying, I don't know, give me another time period. Roman, if you make it up completely, have nothing to do with any of Roman history. And
but there's a Colosseum
but they're wearing
in it
like
where people
togas.
Fight.
Yeah, if there's a Colosseum and they're wearing togas, does that make it Roman?
Yes.
Okay, well,
I'm kidding.
Then that's a me problem.
Okay. Yeah. So I think like we were going in and thinking of, I don't know.
I was thinking it would be more like the Black Death where people are starving and eating each other on the streets. And it takes place in like a church with nuns and them dealing with it. A little bit more like The Unworthy is what I want
to read that. We
anticipating. And this was a lot softer with the horror.
Yeah,
too.
so we have, so as we mentioned in the summary, the saints show up and they're just there and people are like, where do you come from? And they have all this food.
And they kind of brainwash them, I think. They're like, where do they come from? How'd they get here? Oh, well,
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the, this is another example of like dramatic tension being misplaced because one of the characters, I think Sir Voin, says, while they're talking, Sir Voin is like, but the saints brought food that's out of season. Like we aren't, like dates or whatever they brought aren't in season right now. So where did they get that food? But she's the only character who voices that to herself. Am I wrong about that?
No, she does. It happens a couple times. She like thinks about things and she's like almost snaps out of it. And she's like, this just isn't right. There's something off. And then, it's like they dangle something and then she gets distracted and like loses that ability to break out of this spell, basically.
Yeah, so part of the spell is that the food they bring and the meat they get from the inhabitants of the castle, they feed to people and they eat it and they go into like a stun lock, sort of. They're just kind of dazed and lose their autonomy, essentially. And it sounds like most of the inhabitants of the castle are just like laying out in the sun, baking and starving for a lot of it.
But feasting as well. It's very Roman. They're just laying around and eating.
Yeah. Meanwhile, our main characters, Phocine and Sir Voin and Trela, are like running around and stuff, but they're apparently starving. There's a few moments where it's like, I think with Phocine, where she was starving but not hungry. There's a difference kind of thing. I don't know. I didn't get the feeling that anyone was like really starving except for one scene when Phocine's like collapsed in the tower.
She's like laying on the ground. She's like, I guess I'm going to die now. And then Trela gives her like 2 little dried pieces of fruit. And then she's like, I guess I'm better now. Like, wait, whoa, slow down, girl. And then she's like running around like lifting stuff. And I'm like, I got to eat more fruit, man.
Yeah, I need a beer at least.
What have I been doing? Jeez. Yeah. So when they eat, this is what I gathered. When people eat, it puts them under a spell, basically. So then they think they're eating a cornucopia, right? Of fruits, and everything is delicious and fresh and warm and it smells so good. But if you're not in this trance, you see that they're eating pieces of people. I'm assuming these are the other people laying in the yard that are...
I think so.
I mean, I don't know which people these are, because at the end they're like, well, they won't remember. And I'm like, but aren't they missing body parts?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Like, did they just like huddle, like, okay, we're going to take these people. And then, right. And then they also bury body parts in the garden. So they're like growing
fingernails, I think it was specifically.
That part was cool.
Yeah. There's also one of the cool parts with Sir Leodegardas. Sir Voin goes to talk to him, and he's missing a leg and part of his arm, I think. And he's just like, you gotta serve.
Gotta sacrifice.
Gotta sacrifice for the people.
Damn, dude.
That was cool. And I needed a lot more of that. There's a couple of flashes of the disgustingness of cannibalism, but not nearly enough.
Has got to be real like cringe, because it is, right? Like eating humans is really gross. So like you got to make it. Oh man, just Tenders the Flesh was so good because it was so creepy. And I think one of my critiques on how she handled the cannibalism is that it wasn't really there. It was hidden with this spell, but it wasn't really like our main character should have seen more and experienced like watching people eating flesh more often and being like, this is so good. You know, like I wanted more of that disassociation, but like, oh my God, like you don't know what you're doing. You know, like the king should have been feasting on eyeballs, thinking they're grapes, and having like Voin be like, oh my God, don't do that, you know, and him be like, it's so good, and just like playing into it, because that would have just been so like, ah.
Yeah, the most we get is when the feast begins. It's a pretty cool scene because there's part of that like the weird magical days that's coming over them from eating the saints' food while they're sitting down to the feast, and Sir Voin gets a plate, or sees a plate going to the king. I forget which one it was, but it has knuckle bones lining the edges of the plate.
Oh yeah, I have a quote. Defleshed bones ornament the plate like scattered pearls, 8 in all, none the same exact size or shape.
Yeah, that's great. I think that might be the like one of the only details we get.
But I don't like defleshed bones. That just that's passive. It should be like bones that people had like licked clean, you know? Just could have made it so much more dug in.
Yeah. So part of the issues we're having is it feels like it's marketed as a medieval horror, but it doesn't really feel medieval. And the horror is, I mean, like there is horror there, but it's all a lot of pulled punches. It feels like nothing's really pushed all the way.
Can I give more quotes?
Yeah.
So then also here's another bit about the eating part, right? So in her lap, Foycine sounds like she's crying. So she's in Sir Voin's lap. In her lap, Foycine sounds like she's crying. Look, please, look at what you're eating, she entreats. Sir Voin looks. The roast weeps, glistening fat, rests in pools of oil that shimmer in the candlelight and sing with spices. And then Foycine goes on to say, she can't, not after seeing Voin eat piece after piece of a man's arm. It is all she can do not to vomit. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's PG. That's PG cannibalism.
I think you would vomit too.
Yeah. I mean, if I would. And like being in her lap and having like, I don't know, blood, or maybe it's roasted, so it is oil, but like having that dripping basically on you, I don't know. I wanted more.
Yeah, so what the real development is everything's kind of like half formed, but it feels like the book is more like medieval horror light for people who want something that's more sapphic. So these three characters, Trela, Phocine, and Servoin, all kind of want each other.
But Trela also wants to kill Servoin.
Yes.
And Servoin also like trained Trela as a kid. So that's weird to me.
Yeah, so after the Battle of Cardamon, Servoin goes to Trela's royal household to recover, and then it ends up the king comes by and is like, cut off the dad's head.
But before that, she helped train Trela with swords as a young girl. So they had a relationship before the battle. She was around, Voin was around, and like...
Yeah, we don't get specific ages, but it sounds like an adult is training and sexually harassing like a young child.
I think Trela is a teenager
probably
in this, but this is much later, so she was a tween at most.
Yeah, but so Trela wants to kill Servoin. Apparently Phocine is part of the love triangle too. There's a lot of like they fall down on each other and
act like they've never had any kind of like sexual emotion before. It's like the first time Phocine's been like, oh, this is what that's like. I'm like, aren't you a woman?
Yeah, and there's a couple times where Servoin chokes Trela or Phocine. Phocine. And Phocine kind of likes it. So it's like, oh, all right, some BDSM here. But it's only hinted at. It happens a couple times and then doesn't really happen again. So I'm not sure.
The wall gets in the way.
Yeah, Phocine glitches and falls out of the map. A couple times she just like will move through stone or the wall or fall through the floor.
And that kind of thing is what changed my thoughts of like alchemy to magic, right? Because... Well, and the saints, obviously, but in regard to Phocine's abilities.
But yeah, there's never an actual hookup. It's all like our legs were intertwined, and then I thought about thinking. There's just a lot of like they fall down and their legs become intertwined, or like she touches my arm, but it never develops, and I never felt like the characters liked or disliked each other. I was constantly told about how Trela wanted to get revenge against Voin for killing her dad, but we never learned a single thing about the dad except that his head was cut off. And then at the end, we're like, no,
he deserved it.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Sold off that city to be taken advantage of so that he would get salt or something.
Yeah,
and it was like, so what is this? Okay, we weren't given enough to care.
Yeah, this is another thing in the book is everything that a character says or thinks is treated as fact. So at the end, when Servoin tells Trela, like, I cut off your dad's head because he betrayed our army, Trela's just like, oh.
And the city.
And the city. And then Trela's just like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I don't want revenge. And just like accepts it.
I guess he was a jerk.
Yeah.
Therefore.
And then there's other things like, I mentioned how they're sending messengers out and they're like, they've been killed or captured. And that's definitely likely since they haven't heard back, but they'll say it like, this is what it is. And then also there's times when Phocine is thinking about how the saints appeared or just how various magical things are happening. And her thoughts will be, oh, it must be this. But yeah, it feels like the characters will often think of a reason why something is happening, and then that becomes the reason. So it feels very plot convenient. It seems like characters think things that they wouldn't realize on their own, but in order to move the story forward, it happens. And a lot of it comes down to like, I think continuity is broken in order to get a nice sounding line or something. So for example, let's talk about how full the castle is. This is a description of the castle, which is cool and made me excited to like see how they're going to navigate a castle under siege with that's bursting with starving people. So they are packed in one atop the other. A castle meant to hold at most 300 for any length of time now shelters 3 times that. Every nook and cranny is full to bursting of terrified farmers and a pitiful handful of overwrought knights. They've been living in this unbearable press for almost 6 months now. It's a testament to Sir Leodegardus's leadership that they've lasted this long, that the siege outside their walls has not broken them, that plague has not crashed down heavy on their heads. But time is inexorable, as is the human stomach. So this sets a scene of like, there are people everywhere starving, and this is like a second away from turning into a full-blown riot.
They're like packed in like sardines.
But then most of the scenes feel like there's nobody in them except the characters who are interacting. There's just no... There are very, very little, at least, descriptions of this bursting castle.
Well, they're constantly able to go up to Phocine's tower and run into no one. They do that like 3 or 4 times, I feel. And it's like, how?
There's also
Has everyone been eaten at this point?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And then an example of characters who know things that they wouldn't know is, I think when the Saints come out, one of the characters, maybe Trela, says... Every single person in the castle was outside to see this. And it's a minor thing, but it's like, how would you know?
How's their room?
How would you know that? And how is their room? And literally you're counting the 900 people. So there's just a lot of those little, this character doesn't have this information, but it's trying to be conveyed to the reader.
I wonder if you could answer this for me, or I would like to hear your ideas on the bees and the honey.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So there's bees in the church, it sounds like.
Yeah. They're like part of the religious order. They have hives inside the chapel. And then when they give service twice a day, I believe, it's kind of like Holy Mass where they take a dab of honey and feed it to each person, like taking communion, basically.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I'm surprised that they didn't eat all the honey to live.
And the little dab of honey also
shows how
does
religious
the
they are.
mind control.
Yeah, but towards the end, it gets out of hand in there. Trela goes into the church, and there's comb everywhere, and the hexes are like starting to be filled with blood. That's pretty cool. And then she like is able to crawl under a table, I think, that's covered in honeycomb, and like hides within the comb when she watches the Constant Lady interact with Voin. It was like, whoa, these bees got out of hand. Like, they just went nuts.
I don't know. It was another thing. Like, yeah, toward the end they had that, and that was kind of cool. But
is it because they were also eating? I mean, they had blood, right? So were they also going mad from
the bees themselves?
Yeah, from eating stuff. Like, I didn't quite understand what was going on with the bees.
I don't know. I know the bees are a big part of the world, but in terms of how often the reader encounters them, except for that ending point, it's very little. I mean, bees were occasionally brought up, but the thing that made this book kind of muddled for me is that it would say, like, the bees are in the church and it's a huge part of their religion and all that, but then they're very rarely brought up, so that when when the book would say, then the bees did whatever, I'd be like, oh right, there's bees here. And that's kind of how I felt about most of the developments. It felt like everything was sort of half formed.
But it was like when you're in the moment, it was so focused on like that moment that you start to forget about the other things until you so each chapter would switch perspective. You'd be Sir Voin, Trela, Phocine, and then Sir Voin. So each chapter is like from their perspective. And when you're with Trela, you're with Trela. And unless she interacts with the other characters, there's no, which makes sense. That's close third person. But it was so hyper-focused on that one person's thing that you would forget. So if no one went into the cathedral near the bees were, I felt, to me at least, out of sight, out of mind.
I feel like they could still be used as setting
Focine,
descriptions,
walked
right?
by. I think at one point Focine walks by when she goes to see the prioress and is like, oh yeah, the bees are still inside. And then but there's no one else around. And then she finds the prioress with her tongue cut out.
Focine was also, so she's left the church. Used to be, what are they called? I don't know.
A nun?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the term they use here, but she used to be part of the church, and she's no longer part of the church. But there are oftentimes in the beginning when they're developing this, where she'll think, I wonder how I could have believed in the church so much. Like in terms of she forgets how she feels. She's like, I wonder I wonder how that little girl felt and how she was able to be part of this church.
Well, I think,
so she's forgetting her own past.
Yeah, well, I think part of that comes from the fact that she is not eating the honey and she refuses to eat it. Remember, someone gives her some and she just lets it sit and rot. Well, not rot, but get covered in dust and stuff because she won't eat it, even though she's starving. And I think that is part of this whole mind control thing that the saints come. And so I looked this up and or in my various external readings about this book, someone said that the saints are actually fairies, that there are fairies in this world.
Who famously do not like iron.
Yes. So once all the iron's out of the setting, then they are able to come in, and they come in on the bees as they go and collect their pollen.
Oh, okay.
And that's how they get there.
I think part of the struggle with the saints too is that, sorry, finish that.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I think that to me, that could explain why there is potentially a parallel between the honey having this, maybe having some kind of mind control effect on people. So when Focine stops eating the honey, she starts to forget. And then the parallel is with the saints. They have people eating stuff, they don't realize what it is, and they don't remember doing.
But here's
the act.
If that's like, so you got this honey that drives you crazy. I want a scene.
I don't think the honey drives you crazy. I think it's more just like a mind control thing.
Oh, I thought it was like the food though. Like if you consume the honey, you're like.
No, because that's part of their religion. They've been doing it always. It's not new. They were all. The difference is that Focine stopped, so she's losing that part of her brain. This is just a complete guess.
I just want a Winnie the Pooh scene with the king where like he's just got a bowl of honey and he's just like sticking his hand in there and like licking the honey off his hand, and Focine or whoever is like, dude, you're insane. But it doesn't happen.
Yeah. But it was interesting that someone said, oh, they're fairies. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now we have a whole nother set of rules, fantasy rules, by the way, not medieval, coming in. And I mean, yes, it comes from folklore that could be considered medieval, but it's not explained. If they are fairies, it's not explained in a way, to me at least, that clarified that and gave me the tools that I needed as someone who does not study fairy lore to be able to understand what's going on.
I think too with the saints, they appear and we're told they're saints. I mean, part of it is are they or are they not? But
because they mimic the saints that are pictured in the church.
True, but that's all we get is that there are idols of these saints in the church, and that the people who have come here who may or may not be the saints reflect the saints that they actually worship. But there's very little worship in the book. Like the saints show up and it's just like,
their worship is eating honey, and the nuns are walking around the outside area of, even though they're starving, they're carrying, like the burden of the cross kind of thing.
Right. So, yeah. So
that's what we get of their religion.
Yeah. We see a little bit of that. Like, okay, that sounds like religious stuff, but I never learned anything about the saints and to make me, I don't know, feel awed by their presence. They just showed up and it was like, these are saints and they brought food and we're going to eat it. And now we're all dazed.
Yeah. I think if she had spent some time giving us the background about the saints, who they really are, because then we find out, oh, they're actually not the saints. And it's like, oh, okay. Were we given clues about that? Like, could we have picked up on that as readers, or did you just have to tell us that through the characters discovering that? You know, it's like there's this disconnect of what's happening and what we were told. So it feels like, and you had said this to me earlier, it feels like this was more of like a sequel. Like we should already have like know the characters' backgrounds should have like were built in a different place. We already established the religion and the war, and like we're supposed to know all this because it's not given to us, but the story relies on this information, and so therefore I think that's where some of the disconnect comes. It's almost like this is book 2 and book 1 is yet to be released.
Yeah, it does feel like reading fan fiction in terms of, I mean, I don't read fan fiction, but in terms of like, it feels like we're following characters that we know so well that we don't need the character building. We can just be told what they're doing or thinking, right?
Yeah. Oh, we got rid of iron, so they must be fairies. Oh, okay. Well, if you don't know fairy lore, then you're not going to understand that.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I was looking at Starling's Tumblr, and in the Tumblr there's some fan art. I don't know if it's fan art or if she commissioned it or not, but there's art of the characters, of the 3 characters, mostly in like sexy entanglements, which I feel like just put those pictures in the book, because seeing that, I guess I would understand a little bit more what's going on, but it feels like there's a big disconnect between how the book is marketed and then what people are supposed to bring to the book, almost as if it almost feels like, oh, if I had been on the Tumblr and I saw the character art and stuff, then I would have a little bit more of a connection to these characters without it needing to be built up in the book. I don't know if that was like the strategy or if the fan art came out before or after the book's release, but it kind of feels like this is for people who know what I'm doing outside of the book.
It's almost like she did a Pinterest board, like a vibe board, and then made this book from that, but then like didn't reference her readers to that board, you know? So it's like we're just missing stuff that would make it it could be a really, really good book, but it just there's just pieces that are missing. And I think that
it's interesting. Even the way the book is sort of being marketed, there's a, what is this called? So we have like one of the marketing pieces on Instagram is a picture of the book and then a bunch of arrows pointing over it.
It's a common
style. Like what's in this book, and please don't eat the mind control food. Cute girl with a knife serving up a literal foot.
I don't know who that's supposed to be. Who's the cute girl?
I think that's supposed to be Trela.
But Trela's never mind controlled.
I'm not sure then. Lesbian OT3. Lesbians, but they all hate each other. Unnegotiated BDSM for fun and esoteric knowledge.
There's no BDSM.
There's the like...
No.
Voin chokes Focine a couple of times for a second. So I don't know. It feels like whether or not this was the plan, a book that was created so that it could be put on the internet and say it has all of these little things, even though none of them are fully developed within the book. But they're not. They're portrayed as kind of having feelings for each other, but I didn't get like, okay, they're lesbians, they're lovers now. It's just, it felt like they were all confused about their sexuality and like had never experienced attraction before. Because it was like, how could you be so confused? Why is Focine like, what's happening to me? Oh, she's choking me. I kind of like it. It's like, duh. Like
she's a grown woman. You don't understand that you're turned on by that. Okay, I can understand where you've never been choked before, so you didn't realize you like that. But to the way that she reacts to it, it's like she doesn't understand what's happening in her body. I'm like, are you 12 going through puberty, or are you a 30-year-old woman who's like, you know how I feel about romancy stuff. So
Yeah, romance at all. You even liked Mayfly though, so I know you like a little romance.
well, I put up with it in that.
There's also
it was so
yeah.
worth it, and that built character. That was very good character building and creepy. Come on, the hair curler. That's not sexy. That's fucking horror. This is not horror.
Yeah, it's interesting because
Horror romance.
I feel like there is a cool setup, right? Because you have Trela, who wants revenge against Servoin for beheading her father, and then you have Focine, who's like getting choked and kind of likes it. So there could have been this, like I feel like there should have been more exploration of that tension of that, like I don't like you, but I like you.
Especially with Trela. She's just like, my problem with her is she, at the very beginning, she's like, she sees Voin and she's like, I hope she doesn't see me. She hasn't noticed me yet, but I'm going to kill her because she killed my father. And you're like, oh, okay, vengeance story. Cool. And then she's like, yeah, and I'm going to kill the king because he ordered it. Fuck these guys. You know, like, this is what I'm going to do. And then she finds the cave, which we haven't even touched on yet, but she finds the cave. She realizes that she might have a way to escape the castle, which is also one of her goals. And she's like, well, I guess I don't have to kill the king. I could just kill Servoin and then escape. And then she's like, well, I could just escape and leave them to their fates, right? And then it's like, so wait, so you just like give up?
Yeah.
Like you're just over it? And then now you're kind of attracted to her? Like, so you don't give a shit about your dad. Like, so her motive just disappears. And it's like, yeah, it's still there. And she's like, I'm mad at you. And then, like you said earlier, Servoin's like, well, your dad deserved it. He was going to allow this city to be destroyed. Oh, okay. Well, therefore, now I can just have a crush on you. And it's like, girl, you are a mess. Like, you have no motive. And it was just pointless.
Yeah, and
she so she finds this cave, right? She goes down in the cave. She figures out that when there's no light, there's this voice that talks to her and is willing to help her get out of the cave, but wants a sacrifice. So yada yada. Eventually, she lets it bite off her finger.
And this part was kind of cool because it was like he licked her finger.
Yeah,
and
like started to rip the skin off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That was good, grotesque stuff.
And it was like, what is this thing in the walls?
Yeah, and it only talks when it's dark, like creepy in this tight cave. Not feeling so good about that. But so she decides, okay, I'm gonna let it eat my finger and I'm gonna get out of here. So she gets out. And then she sees that everything's sunny and fine and the army's gone and time is different for some reason. And then she talks to some farmers. They're like, yeah, we're not really sure what's going on in the castle. And then she makes the selfless decision to go back. Like, fuck them. Leave, girl. What are you doing? Why? What's the point? It's not explained why she would go back. So then
they say like she's leaving behind Voin and Focine, but it's like you hardly know these people.
You hate Voin.
Yeah.
And Focine's
just like the mad woman in the tower.
You're like, well, she was kind of nice to me and I gave her my food. What? Okay. So she sacrifices her ear to go back to save these people that she really should have absolutely no care for. And then she goes back and she like does other stuff. I'm like, what is her character arc? There's no, and if it's there, I missed it because it was, I did not understand her story at all. I didn't know what she was on. I was like, girl, you're on something.
She was kind of like how we're constantly told how brave Servoin is, but we don't see it. Trela down in the cave, the little creature that's wants to bite off her fingers and stuff. calls her clever. Like there's this whole thing about like, ooh, you drive a hard bargain. You're really clever. But the clever thing that makes that little creature start to call her clever is she realizes, well, the castle is up against a cliff and I'm at the wall. I'm at the back of the castle, right? So therefore, this can't, like the little thing in the wall can't be one of the enemy forces because this is the back of the castle up against the cliff.
It'd have to be like floating or something, right?
Yeah, and I think like the blacksmith is behind where the creature would be, so it's like the person would have to be in the wall or something that doesn't make sense.
But she's talking to it through a hole, so wouldn't she see through the hole that? Oh wait, she did see water or feels air. I don't know. Never mind.
But also the comment of like, oh, it can't be an enemy force because this is the back of the castle by a cliff. It's like, well, they could like at nighttime send somebody back there. Oh yeah,
they've clearly never heard of the Battle of Normandy,
or like
scaling a wall to get to the enemy.
Yeah, just the cave thing was. And it's like she sacrifices her finger, and then she's like, "Actually, I should go back, have my ear." And it was like this. It felt like
enough.
Yeah, it felt like let's have this dramatic moment of sacrificing a part of my body to this creature that I can't see. I just got to stick my finger through a hole in the wall and see what happens. Like that's so cool. But then it feels like the point of it is to make that scene tense. But in terms of the development of it, there's nothing because she just comes right back. That diminishes what she did, and it also doesn't fit her character that we initially were supposed to believe. We weren't given enough of a reason for her to come back. If it was because she started to really care for Phocine and or Voin, that connection was way too weak for me to believe that she would sacrifice her ear to go back into a place where she could die to save these people that she just met, one of which who she was determined to kill. And then she does. She comes back, she kills Voin, right? That's the proper order. And then she's like, oopsies. No. Phocine kills Voin. Because she thinks that she's Voin,
possessed.
she thinks Voin is the constant lady.
Right. Or is it Trela? Anyway. And then they drag Voin into the cave, right? And then the cave
but she's like in full
expands.
Armor.
Yeah.
So is the cave moving?
But she's not in armor because they don't have any armor. Oh, no, she did. Right. She is because she stole it from Leo D.
So when Trela first goes through this cave, and maybe the cave is shifting, I'm not really sure, but when Trela first finds this, like, she squirms through the hole in the wall and it goes to a cave.
It was such a good scene.
It was cool, but she gets completely naked, takes all of her clothes so she can squeeze through, and she's super skinny and emaciated,
tiny,
right?
Yeah, they're starving.
But then
apparently
Voin ends up going through, and she's much bigger, and then later on is dragged through with armor, and it was like there's more room now.
Yeah, the three of them go through.
So
the first time Voin didn't go through, she's like, "Nah, I ain't going in there with you guys." But then after she's stabbed and killed, then she's dragged into there and is healed with the water.
I think so.
Okay, and then is able to be alive in there. I don't know how. I guess maybe it's like the magic thing. Maybe.
Yeah, I think too. So when Trela goes out, she learns two things. First of all, there's like barely any enemy forces there. There's like one encampment there with a few people, and it's a different season. But so my thought is like, oh, how is the different timing going to work out? And if she's going to go back in, I would think she'd be like ringing the bells in the castle, like, hey, there's not an enemy force out there. There's something going on. It's a different season.
Well, they're all in their trance, right? So they would just grab her and bring her at that point. But
even when she
going back in, you think time would have shifted at a different pacing, right? Because if time's going faster outside and she's outside even for a little while, when she comes back in, time still should not line up perfectly like it did.
It felt like that whole thing was dropped. I was like, ooh, this is interesting. There's a time thing going on. But then
At the end, they're like, okay, well, we'll leave, and it's all, no one will remember.
yeah, let's talk about the ending real quick, and then I think we can talk about, I want to talk about like what people bring to a book versus what the book offers, because I think this book is a good example of that, right?
Yeah.
So the end gets everything that was developed in the middle, not everything, but like a lot of the cool stuff, like what are these little creatures on the outside of the walls? Phocine is the mad woman, like her magic and stuff seems to get kind of dropped toward the end as the characters just kind of rush toward the climax, which ends up turning into Phocine becomes the queen. She's like,
no, she eats something, but like I don't think she becomes possessed because of her ability with the water. Her cleansing the water gives her the same power that they have, that the saints have over other people. If they drink the water, like Voin, she can control Voin now because Voin had the water. It broke the spell. They're like, oh, that breaks the spell. But then Phocine tells Voin at one point to do something, and she does it. She's like, don't do that again. Oh, okay. So she has the same ability now, and she's with, I don't know when this happened. Somehow she ends up with the Constant Lady and is now immaculately clean. She's wearing silks. She's beautiful. Her tower is super clean because she got her.
Yeah, she like cleans up, and it's like her character arc is, and then she cleaned her room.
Yeah. But her little eel things helped her. Okay, her little, sorry, this is a tangent, but her little two little like demon pets reminded me of Flotsam and Jetsam in The Little Mermaid, the little eels that just like follow around and like hide in rocks and stuff. But anyway, so she cleans her room, and then she's like with the Constant Lady. So Trela and Voin think that she's now under the Constant Lady's control. But I don't think she is. I think she's just playing along, or she is.
So we get from Phocine to being the maybe new queen to Sir Voin is then given the throne. Not given. She gets it somehow.
Well, they battle. So then the Constant Lady fights Voin, but because she still has some power over her, Sir Voin can't see her because earlier Sir Voin got Trela confused with the Constant Lady because they both have blonde hair. The Constant Lady got mad and made it so Sir Voin literally could not see Trela. And then so at the end, when Sir Voin, who now is armed after finding Sir Leonidas, she takes his armor and stuff and his weapon, and then is going to fight the Constant Lady. The Constant Lady makes it so she can't see her. And so Phocine's like, yo, she's on your right, and then she falls into the cistern, which is like the purified water, so that, Phocine gets like her magical thing. And then the creatures go down in the cistern. I actually learned this through reading this third party, and they boil the water and kill the Constant Lady. And that's how they're able to free themselves. And then they give Sir Voin leadership, I think. And then they're like, well, we can choose to have everyone remember what happened, or we can choose to have them not remember anything and just be okay. And
and they lived happily ever after. But we get these descriptions throughout the book that the people are just like laying out in the sun, like baking in the sun. So you'd think if you came out of your days and saw a bunch of people missing body parts and you have like horrible sunburn, like it would be horrible. But and here's what's crazy too is, so Voin is the queen, but then the book ends, and this is another part where it felt like this was written because it like sounded nice, but she becomes queen, and then the three of them leave the castle. Okay. All right. So the end of the book, after Sir Voin takes up the throne, the three of them are are by the front gate, and there is a reason given why they're not staying. The way I worded it, Phocine says after a moment, they will think there was a miracle here, the constant lady and her saints, in truth, a visitation and intercession. So right here, the reason we get for, even though Voin is the new leader that they need to leave, is like, let's let these people who are waking up and keep their religion, right? Is that kind of...
Yeah, I think so.
Let
like
them think it's a miracle.
Beauty, they're all going to wake up.
Which is funny. Like, let them think it's a miracle so they could get tricked again? Shouldn't you be like, hey, maybe we need to have a conversation?
We need to incorporate iron into this religion.
She's right, of course. And their role in it will be lost. 3 starving women who struggled for mastery of themselves in the face of a spiraling world. Can we leave here? Trela asks softly, sounding unaccountably young for the core that's... Trela asks, can we leave here? Trela asks softly, sounding unaccountably young for the gore that stains her to the bone. Only one way to find out, Phocine says, and her eyes flash with an eager hunger, and we must hope we can, for there is no food in Aymar Castle.
No shit.
Voin pulls them both close, and together they take the next step. Oh, maybe they're not stepping out of the castle. Am I wrong about that? They're just taking the next step together. No, they're talking about leaving. Can we leave here? And we must hope we can. Yeah, I think they're all leaving. So the king is dead. They have a new leader, and then the leader's like, let's all like hold hands and leave the castle and go to the next stage of our life, which is apparently like going to the woods. And there is still an enemy encampment out there, right? Like there is still something there. So I don't know. It just this is a book that not what we expected, and not just in a like, oh, this was different than I thought, but like wildly different than it's marketed as. I mean, in like the official book description, if you look at the, like how it's being talked about online, you get a lot more of those sapphic elements, and you get that she's playing with like, this love triangle. But in terms of like the official book description, it's just these 3 women are the only ones to still see their situation for what it is, but they are not immune from the temptations of the castle's new masters or each other, and their shifting alliances and entangled past spring violence to the surface. To save the castle and themselves will take a reimagining of who they are and a reorganization of the very world itself. But what it really is kind of a BDSM threesome sapphic light with light horror elements and light medieval elements. I guess I feel like it's marketed wrongly, or even, I don't know, I guess it feels a little bit like a bait and switch. It really does read as, oh, this is going to be, horror, cannibalism, and these women are going to try to save a fracturing world. But that's not really what it is. Before we go more into that, I will say the book's doing really well, so that's great. I mean, I'm happy for the author. It's good to see a local author doing well. I just read that it sold out of its second print run.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really great.
There's an audience for it, and that's great. It's just apparently not us.
Yeah, it does feel like this is for an audience who maybe like follows her online and sees what she's trying to build with it in a way that's not shared with readers who don't have access to that, which might be, I mean, maybe the approach does seem to be working for her. I don't know if that's the way she's thinking of it. Like, I'm going to build a book for my online community. But it kind of feels like that. I felt like, oh, I missed out on a lot of information that I should have had. And another thing is we both did some reading about the book afterwards, looking at reviews, and it does seem quite divisive. I came across several reviews, both, critic reviews and people talking about it in Reddit and stuff. And there's a lot of people who loved this book and felt like it was a fever dream and weird and horrific, where I felt like it was mostly just kind of confusing and undeveloped. So this is really, our opinions are subjective, of course.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to like trash the book or anything. Nothing against its success.
We're just pointing out the things that we struggled with.
Yeah.
And clearly other people didn't. I mean, I looked up and learned that these were probably fairy. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess if you understand fairy lore going into it, you could take a whole different meaning out of how these characters came to be. I just don't have that knowledge in my realm. So therefore I was like, how? What? So you were saying, like how it was advertised or whatever and what we got. And I looked up some comparative books, like what people are suggesting if you've read this book and you liked it. And one of them is The Unworthy. That came up into the list, which is because there are nuns and cannibalism. They're completely different books. Also Between Two Fires, which is actual medieval history because it takes place in France.
Yeah, this book is heavily that seems to just be a publisher thing. Like they did the same thing with You Weren't Meant to Be Human, right? They're like Alien meets Midsummer, and you're like, oh, I see the alien part. And I think this, because they're calling it medieval, they're like, oh, well, then it's just like Between Two Fires.
Yeah, and then same with The Lamb was another one, and it's like, oh, because there's cannibalism. It's like, that's not. So I think part of the problem is that when you take a concept and boil it down to a term and use that to connect things like, like we did this month of Psycho, right? It was Victorian Psycho was a play on American Psycho, but Psycho itself was a very different book. Just because it's has Psycho in the name does not actually associate them, right?
Yeah, I think part of it was within Starving Saints, it feels like we're told about these things. Like there is a castle, there is cannibalism, there are nuns, but I didn't feel like we lived in any of it or experienced any of that. We're just told that, which is interesting because there are people who liked it and the thought that you can just be like tall warrior, and it's like, damn, yeah, there's a strong woman in this book. It's like, I don't know, what people bring. Everyone brings their own experience and knowledge to a book, and it just felt like within this, I would imagine the people who liked it. And of course, I'm talking about people I don't know, so I'm totally just making this up. It's like they hear the term and then are fine with just inputting what they've experienced of, a medieval castle or cannibalism and just filling that all in. And like, that's good enough. And it's totally fine.
Be fine. I do that. I read a book and they give a character description and I completely ignore it and create my own character. And at the end, totally, they're like, and then she, and then they mention how she was blonde. And I'm like, she's not blonde. Oh, I guess I created a different character. And so that's fine. I think the issue is more about the disconnect that we felt between what we were told and what we were expected to understand and know.
Yeah, I think too, like, I really like books that, I mean, depending how they're done, obviously, but I like books where you're not totally sure what's happening. And it felt like within this, one of the terms that comes up in a lot of reviews here is like, it's a fever dream, but I didn't feel like I wasn't given information to make it more interesting or to feel like I didn't have all the parts of the puzzle. I just felt like I was confused. And one of the examples I think of in terms of like weird fiction, the Southern Reach trilogy, right? By Jeff VanderMeer. I read those books, especially the first one, Annihilation, and it's like, I don't really know what's happening. There was, a team who came out to this area. There's like a plant monster or something, and then there's an upside down tower in the ground, something like that, right? But the thing is, the pieces of information you are given are very immersive and detailed. So it really felt like, and the author is like, I'm just going to give you parts of the puzzle. I'm not going to explain what's going on so you can bring your imagination into it. But what made that work is what is shown with so much detail and immersion, where this, I just felt like I didn't have all the information and I was confused.
Yeah, Gene Wolfe does a really good job of that too.
Yeah, Gene Wolfe is smarter than I am, which is not hard to say. But he's just like, what I mean by that is, so Jeff VanderMeer, I feel like in Southern Reach trilogy, you just don't get all the information. With Gene Wolfe, I don't know how he does it, but when I read about the books, it'll be like, oh, all the information is there. It's just given in like a piecemeal way that you'd have to like read it over and over to make those connections. But again,
there's a coherent, logical story that does not need those pieces.
Right. Yeah, those are like world building
That's
pieces.
That's part of the problem here, is that the background can do that, but the main story can't. And I think that the main story did that here a bit. And I just want to point out, I checked again in the book just to make sure that I'm not like putting myself on a hill that isn't even in the book, but it says a transfixing fever dream of medieval horror. Not medieval horror. It should say like of medieval fantasy horror, or something like that, pointing out that it's not. That's false advertising.
Do you think that's trying to get on the Between Two Fires wagon? Like, hey, we have to make it seem more...
and it's like in a castle, and maybe they don't want to market it as a fantasy, so they're like, oh, it'll be medieval, but I don't know. I mean, every example of medieval books that I read, it's like a legitimate historical fiction. This is not a historical fiction. The characters are made up. The places are made up. Just having a castle doesn't make it medieval. And that's okay, but you can't market it as medieval when it's not. Like every other medieval horror book I've seen, it actually is... Between Two Fires takes place in France. There's this other one I just found recently, Pilgrim, a medieval horror. It takes place during the Crusades. It's actually medieval history.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, right? Otherwise, it's just fantasy, because fantasy, yes, is built on... Some types of fantasy is built on medieval tropes and costuming and world building, but then you add magical elements. That's what this book is. It's a fantasy. It's not medieval.
Yeah.
And that, I was really excited about medieval, because you guys, if you've listened before, you know how much I've actually am listening to a medieval nonfiction book right now. So I love medieval history. And so to have it not be that, I think is the most frustrating thing to me. And it's like, that feels like false advertising. And it's probably like something really small to most people, but the problem is that makes me not trust this publisher to tell me the truth about their books. It just feels like, oh, these are easy words. This is trending, so we're going to play off that. And this book should stand on its own, not based on...
Yeah, it feels like it's trying to butt into the conversation of Between Two Fires and just the horror genre in general, because it's doing well, right? Like let's put as many tags on this book as possible so we can reach as many different audiences. And by the way the book's doing, it seems like that strategy has worked, but it feels like a strategy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, every book has a strategy behind it, right?
Yeah, and it's saying it has a message and it has an audience it's looking for, but even the Unworthy, I'm looking it up now, it doesn't say anything about medieval. It's post-apocalyptic. It reads like it could be, it reads very much like nuns in a priory, but it's not medieval. I guess I'm really bothered by that.
Yeah, part of this is we saw the talk about the book, I don't know, in the fall, maybe toward the beginning of the season. And so we had most of the season to build up our expectation of what this book would be, I'm
so excited.
Which was, like medieval plus Titus Andronicus or something. So, that's partly on us, right? We went in with strong expectations, which weren't met, which is fine. But also some of those weren't met because it felt like we got tricked.
By the marketing team.
Right.
Because the author doesn't necessarily write the inside copy. That's, they don't always get to pick. They usually don't get to pick the cover art. They usually don't get to pick the back copy and the front copy. That's usually done for them. So,
and it makes me wonder too, like, what was the editor doing? Because, I mean, there's so many rookie mistakes in here and so many undeveloped characters and plot points that it makes it feel more like this was created to be an internet thing, right? To reach all these different audiences through marketing, because in terms of what's delivered in the book, it just isn't. And I would think any editor would be like, no, we got to develop this. But I could see the decision being like, no, this is how we're selling the book and how we're getting it in front of different audiences, and it works and it sells, and we need to get it out. I don't know. Maybe that's too harsh. It feels a little cynical, I guess. And why not own that if your book has this love triangle and has these sapphic elements?
Why isn't that on here?
Why
on
not
the
sell
cover?
that?
That's not.
There's nothing about it.
Nothing about it being
sexy.
sapphic. Nothing about it being a 3. No, there's nothing about any kind of romance vibe in that. It's more of a fantasy romance than a medieval horror.
Yeah. So it kind of just felt like wrong audience for us.
Oh, here. I have a picture. It's June.
June. Wait. Of last... Oh.
June 8th.
Oh, so when we were finishing our second season. So we had almost an entire year building this up in our head.
Yeah, we saw her speaking with Wendy Wagner. This was before Wendy's book came out.
Oh, that's Wendy Wagner. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have seen her.
Yeah,
Got
I remember, and I remember...
And she was doing the mushroom book, right?
Yeah, that's...
Is that the Bram Stoker?
Girl in the
work
Creek.
book?
That's the Bram Stoker book, yeah.
Making connections.
So, and Caitlin had that day gone to the Renaissance Fair and had gotten like cool medieval candles and stuff. She's like, yeah, this goes with the book. And I was like, oh my God, medieval horror. I'm so excited. And I didn't read it beforehand because I was like, I'm going to wait. Because I loved Between Two Fires. I think I'm going to make us read that. Get some real medieval horror in here.
Do it.
And I was like, oh my God, medieval horror. And then I was like, I kept waiting for it. Like, wait, where's the, like, where are they? What? This is fantasy.
Where are the crunching bones?
I'm not supposed to be able to understand the words because it's French
Where's
and I can't pronounce French words.
Where's the human blood dripping off of your lips?
Medieval times were so horrific. You don't need to do much.
It
doesn't take much magic. Just, ugh.
What I wanted in this is, the trope. It's in Lord of the Rings. It's in a bunch of things, like the rich person just gorging themselves on food.
Oh yeah.
Who's doing that in Lord of the Rings? It's that king
Boromir's dad.
Yeah, Boromir. Who's just in the scene with Pippin, and he's just like licking the chicken and like
Denethor
the second. I felt like I wanted a scene of just like the king
being
and his
Denethor
retinue just like licking their fingers and human blood dripping and laughing and like going insane. And that's what I would think of as a fever dream, because you need those feverish elements. It didn't go where we wanted it to go.
And for once we agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the concept of the book was cool. It just, I felt like the execution, I don't know if it was trying to be too many things to too many people, or
if we just missed it, clearly people like it, so maybe it very well could be a us problem. We just didn't know how to read this book.
Yeah. We're just old. We're aging out of the contemporary reading group. All right. Anyway, what you been reading?
Well, speaking of fever dreams, the little one and I finally finished The Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum. The last time I read this, I read it in German, and I guess I either just didn't know what the hell was going on, or it's been too long, but I forgot that there was this whole long ending to them trying to get to Glinda, the Good Witch, to get home. But
interesting.
It's a fun read. It's way longer than the movie and rather different, but yeah, it was fun to read. We had a great edition. I'll also post pictures of that because it's just beautiful illustrations, and even the binding is really beautiful. So that was fun. That took a really long time, though. I think we've been reading that for like 2 months. Bedtime though.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Sometimes we'll read like 10 pages. Sometimes we'll read like half a page. So, but for myself, I'm getting back into the Dark Tower series. I read The Wolves of Calla, which is the 5th book. I listened to this series and I really enjoyed it, and I loved the narrator. And so then I started this book, and it like jarred me because it was a different narrator. So the first handful of books was narrated by Frank Mueller, who's really good narrator. Very, very well done. He's done a number of books. If you're in the know in the audiobook world, you probably have heard of him. He did a fabulous job. And then this book, I was like, whoa, what's going on? So I put it aside because it's a different narrator. And then I eventually looked it up, and it was actually really sad. So Frank Mueller got in a really bad motorcycle accident and lost his ability to do much of anything, but definitely audiobooks. And so he couldn't do the narration anymore. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a second chance. And I finished it, and it was fine. And the end, there's the afterward is Stephen King talking about what happened with Frank Mueller and like saying, hey, you know, we have a support fund and stuff, which is really cool because he used Frank Mueller on a lot of his audiobooks. And I guess Frank Mueller said that his favorite work was working on the Dark Tower series. So really sad, but interesting, the behind the scenes, you know, you're just like, why would you get a new narrator? And then there's this whole story behind it. But it was good. It's not my favorite of the series. I still think the third one is The Wastelands with Charlie the Choo Choo. So, you haven't read them, right? You've read their Gunslinger, and that's it.
I have read the first Dark Tower book.
That's
like
a Gunslinger.
3 times.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think I have 2 more, and then I'll be done with the series. And then I listened to a book that my mom had borrowed from the library, and it's called A Young Man in a Hurry by Gavin Newsom. He's now He's California's governor. He was the mayor of San Francisco when I was going to school there. Pretty cool history there.
He gave the commencement speech.
He did give the commencement speech at my graduation. I don't know if you remember, but like he performed the first gay marriage in California at City Hall before it was technically legal. He was big on no on Prop 8. And yeah, I personally, you know, I liked him as mayor. He's not my governor, so I know it's contentious talking politics because this is not a political podcast.
We need to read a political horror book. Oh, wait, no, we're living in a political horror book.
He's like one of those politicians where like, if you're not from California, it's like no one cares. Like only Californians can hate him because you're Californian, you know, like it's like that love-hate thing.
It's like how you can talk shit about your own family, but if you talk shit about family.
Stay out of our business over here. But it was a good book. It was a lot about just like his life growing up. And for a political book, it wasn't terribly political. And then at the end, he was just like, wow, Trump's like a psychopath. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a fun book. It made me really homesick because he grew up in and around San Francisco and makes me want to go home, read some San Francisco horror. But that's it. So, yeah.
I got some for you.
Kind of all over the place. I'm, you know, a little less depressing this time, I guess.
One of the short story collections I've been working through is, Michael O'Shea. I don't know. Don't take me up on that. But he writes like Cthulhu Mythos stuff. In like 1990s San Francisco.
Oh,
it's really cool.
Okay, I'm down. That's it. So your turn.
Not much. So with the Starving Saints, it was frustrating because I started it and I got like a third of the way through, and then I just had like a huge deadline at work, so I just had to like put it down, get that article done, and then start it up again.
Your like 40-page article?
No, it came in 60 pages.
That's insane.
Insane.
That's a book.
Yes.
It's a novella.
Yeah.
You wrote a novella.
I am a writer. I didn't get any like full books in on the way through that, but I have still been making slow and steady progress on my manuscript, hopefully a little steadier than slower now that I'm past that huge assignment, and especially going up to StokerCon in 2 weeks. But one of the books that I have been reading, I've always been reading it like, I don't know, Bible or something, or a poetry collection. I don't know. But what I mean by that is I read 1 or 2 chapters of this book a day, and they're like short little chapters. And it's called The Art of Slow Writing, Reflections on Time, Craft, and Creativity by Louise DeSalvo. And it's great. It's exactly what I need, and probably what a lot of other writers need, both living in our current everything must be fast and perfect and having ADHD. A lot of the writing advice that I have read has been like, you know, how to succeed in this modern digital age. And it's like release 2 books a year. Never stop releasing shit. Right. And I have read authors who release a book or more a year that like can pull it off, but it's quite difficult.
Even Stephen King has some flops.
Yeah. But what's great about this book is overall it's telling me like, take it slower. I need to spend more time writing, which is always something I need to do. But it's like, don't try harder, but resist less is what a lot of it distills down to. And what I mean by that is like, she talks about how like Ernest Hemingway wrote apparently 47 different endings for, I think it was Farewell to Arms. He wrote like 47 different endings. And what's
Wow.
really nice is that the examples she's giving like examples of literature. And I want to write, I want to write good stuff. I want to write like, I would like to be at genre plus, like, oh wow, it's a genre book, but it was written well. I'm totally fine with that. So I can kind of like scale down the things that she's saying, but it's like, just take your time and like, there's not a rush. It's totally okay to not have the entire book laid out in my mind. A lot of the times I get stuck too much in outlining or just thinking about the book. And it's like, this stuff will all come with time. Just keep making progress, keep writing. Also do exercises, things. One of the things that I really want to do is spend some time just describing some of the settings, not in a narrative fashion.
I thought you meant like, take some time and exercise, stretch, stand up. Like, wow, this is very like cover all your bases.
No, it's pretty much just like keep working on it and put in the hours and like try to do well, but you don't have to know the answer to everything right away. Right? Like you still have to make decisions, but if you spend time with it and you give yourself assignments, like instead of sitting down when I know I have an hour to write and being like, let's just keep moving forward, or, like just pick up where I left off, which obviously works, but it's good to have a task, right? Like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to describe Telegraph Avenue on a sunny day. Right.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of writers will do will be like, I'm going to write the setting and have developing action and right? All
build the scene around the action.
So you can
the way around.
Or, well, just like for today, I'm going to focus on the setting. And then I might say tomorrow, I'm going to go back to that scene and I'm going to look at the dialogue. Like for this session that I'm sitting down, my task is to fix up the dialogue in this scene. But like having those kind of concrete achievable goals instead of like, I'm just going to write.
Fix this chapter.
Can really help. And, sometimes it is time to just write. And that's how I got the first draft done. But yeah, so this book, I definitely recommend it. It's just a really good counter to all the advice we get of like, hurry, 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 be perfect, which can freeze you and has frozen me. So it's helping me let go and just enjoy the work and do it and don't stress about it. It will come. So
I shouldn't have gotten you that writing timer.
Oh, that timer helps me.
Oh, good.
The timer is great. Do 25 minutes. And there's just something about it being there that makes me less likely to get distracted.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm performing alone. But it works.
Good.
So I'm still working through the book. But it's a great one if it's very much about writing, but if you're a writer or even just want to read about how writers work and stuff like that, I think it could still be interesting for somebody who's not a writer if you like reading about writing. But just the fact,
craft of it.
Yeah, it's just like, take your time, like wait till it's ready and it'll be ready. As long as you're making progress, you're good.
Cool.
Of course, more detailed than that, but it came at the right time. Especially for second draft, because I can't be so hurried. I gotta get that detail in.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. And then I started our next book. So let's talk about what's coming up next.
Yeah, we got Nick, Neil, and Paul up next.
Nick, Neil, and Paul went to the bar. Next up, June 2nd, Little Heaven by Nick Cutter. This is another book that I had very different expectations in terms of like what the story is, but it's gonna be interesting to talk about because I am enjoying it. I was just like, oh, that's different than I thought.
That was your pick.
This was my pick.
I would have picked The Deep because I like ocean,
interesting.
underwater stuff.
I like occult stuff.
Sphere's one of my favorite horror movies from when I was young.
And then after Little Heaven, we just got 2 more. On June 16th,
Bloomsday.
We will be talking about Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson, who is an Irish author.
Had to pick an Irish one for Bloomsday.
Haven't read him before, but the book sounds really cool. I'm interested in it. And then we
bought that in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we will be finishing off season 2 with A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, and that will be coming out on June 30th. And then we're on summer break.
Yay, summer. Then we get to read all the stuff that we haven't had time to read, and we won't have time to read, and then we'll be sad because we didn't have time to read all the stuff we thought we'd read.
This is true. That's exactly what's going to happen. I have all these ideas of like, here's what I'm going to read. I need to really be careful because I won't have as much time as I think I will. And we'll see how we'll have to meet up again in the fall and see how that went. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Well, if you've made it this far, then we didn't scare you off. Thanks for listening to Dusk to Dawn, reading horror and weird fiction.
Please rate our podcast, and if you like, follow us on Instagram at Dusk to Dawn Podcast, which is also our Gmail address. Tell us what you liked or didn't like about the show, and let us know if you have any book suggestions. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.